I'd like to welcome I'd like to welcome everybody to today's training. I hope everyone is doing well. Please let us remember to mute our mics. And also, if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat or wait till the question and answer session at the end of the training. So I'm just going to give another 2 minutes for people to join, and then the training kicks off. And it's be facilitated by our Sosti Baba, Jennifer Uchendu. Jennifer Uchendu is a climate activist, sustainability analyst. Please can you mute your... Hello? Kindly mute your mic if you're for this training. Thank you. Jennifer Uchendu is a climate activist, sustainability analyst, and founder of Susti Vibes, a youth-led organization making sustainability relatable and actionable for young people in Nigeria. Jennifer's interests lie in the intersections of women, youth, and the environment. Recently, she launched the Eco Anxiety Africa Project, focused on exploring and understanding the experience of eco-anxiety in Africa's population through research and advocacy. Jennifer started Susti Vibes first as an educational blog for sustainability and environmental advocacy, targeted at educating young Nigerians. The success of the blog showed that translating the world of sustainability through pop culture makes messages more relatable and impactful on young people. With time, the team began to think of how to use the power of volunteerism to bring together young people who want to make sustainability actionable. The blog has since evolved into a community focused on sustainability research and design led by young people. Susti Vibes now connects with youth and numerous motivated volunteers using their preferred mediums, be it dance, music, arts, or community events. Jennifer holds a bachelor's degree in biochemistry from Coverdale University and a master's degree in development studies, specialized in climate change and gender at the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex. She's a 2019 Chevening Scholar, a 2018 Mandela Washington Fellow, and the co-author of the ebook, A Guide to Business Sustainability in Nigeria. Good evening, Jennifer.
Hi, Uche. Good evening. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you facilitate this training.
Thank you. I think I need the host to stop sharing so that I can share my screen. Okay. Awesome. How's everybody doing? Okay, I'm just trying to figure out the screen thing. Just can I ask that everybody mutes? Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, please, your screen is.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see your chat messages. Okay, let's go into it. Hopefully, today I just want to discuss acing your scholarship and fellowship applications from some of the experience I've gathered, in the past 6-7 years that I've begun applying for scholarships. So today is going to be pretty short. Let me see. So we want to learn basic tips about applications, just general information that I've been able to gather. We're also going to learn how to use the STAR approach for answering questions during interviews. We would also attempt achieving application. Hopefully we can do that through the chat and it can be efficient enough. Then I want to leave some time for us to discuss some challenges you've had in your own experience, applying, maybe where you got stuck or something. What's that thing that makes you, think you can't apply? So we can try and, debunk some of the myths and, just hopefully, I really want everyone to get something, at least you might not necessarily apply this year or for achieving or Mandela Washington Fellowship, but I just need you to know these are some of the basics and techniques to applying for these things. Okay, so a bit about me. Uche has kindly said my profile, which has some of this information in terms of some of the fellowships and scholarships I've applied for. I tend to not apply for so much because they can be quite time consuming, especially the fellowship. So, I have to be sure that it's what I want. But yes, I've been able to apply and successfully get, this very fellowships. Recently got into Ashoka, the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, and the University College London in the UK. So let's go into, the tips. So here I put some first things first that, I wanted us to initially know, like in terms of how your mind should be when you start applications or when you start considering applications. So I can tell you how, I can give some tips, general knowledge. Everyone who puts stuff online can tell you some of the things they tried in terms of being successful, but only you can answer your why, why you're applying. You're the only person that knows, and obviously some people would just say, I just want to leave Nigeria. And if that's your why, it might not work out for applications because you need some bit of reflective thinking and intentionality when you're putting out your application, because young people like you oftentimes review your essays. So for example, Mandela Washington would give us essays. We, past fellows, they'll give us people's essays to read through. So if a young person is reading through someone whose mindset is, I'm going to find a way to just run away, or I just want to leave the country, we can see through that essay. We can see through, maybe you're just putting big words together and you don't really know what you're saying. Also, there are best practices and techniques, for scholarship application. And I put one up. We're going to discuss the STAR approach. And I also wanted to say that, an application outcome is not always a reflection of your value. I say that because oftentimes people get super discouraged when they don't get into scholarships or, fellowships, maybe the first time or even the second time. I have friends that applied for Shivning, they didn't get in, and then they applied for something else, maybe Commonwealth, and they got Commonwealth. So the fact that, Shivning says no doesn't mean that you're not valuable or you're not worthy of a scholarship, or the work that you do isn't impactful enough. So always have that at the back of your mind. I think I've gotten to that stage where if I get a rejection, it's like it happens, you just move on. People, we call it different things. People say, oh, we got the love letter, we've gotten so used to it because it's just part of life. Sometimes, these applications have quotas for Black people or for a country, or for maybe if you're in the environmental space like myself, they only have maybe a quota for 20 people, and you might just, be unfortunate for that particular application. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't apply again. Don't give up on your dreams to better your future. I say this because I've seen people who would just, forget about it after the first time. And I've also seen people who have applied severally and then it finally clicked. There were people during my set for Mandela Washington, they're like, this is my fourth time applying, and you're like, wow. So it's really, really important that you don't give up on that dream or aspiration, especially if it's what you want, yeah? And also be honest with yourself. If you know that your writing is not 100%, then do that work, work of trying to improve your writing. Read more of people's essays online, and then you on your own try and as much as possible to have to build yourself in terms of how to write, how to speak. Read vlogs, people on YouTube, how they've been able to ace their fellowships. Just do that work of trying to fill in the gap. I think for me, I had to learn how to write. I was quite comfortable speaking. I can talk about, oh, this is what I've done, this is how I've done it. But the writing bit, I had to learn that there's a way to write these things. There's a way to present yourself. There's a way to start the paragraph. You don't start a paragraph, for example, with, according to Webster's dictionary, leadership means. I've seen stuff like that. And I'm like, this is boring now. Anybody can write this. So you have to always think about, how can I learn how to write more? Oh, awesome. So build your impact story, and I'll share some tips on how to do that. And remember, consistency is key. Consistency is key because you can write an essay, and I've seen some essays where the person starts with talking about how maybe in school they were head of a students' union. That's how their leadership started. They did this, they did that. And then they come somewhere else and they talk about, oh, I'm just, starting a computer, you just start diverting and start talking about something else. If you're starting with, I'm a leader of a students' union, you're already showing that you're looking at youth-related impact, youth-related leadership. So your story has to be consistent. Don't just be all over, the place. Okay, let me just look at the charts. Yes, serves breakfast. Yes, they do that. They do that to us a lot. They serve us breakfast. I think I had one recently, so. Okay, so always take the time to reread and reread the essay prompts before you attempt. People always miss that, and when we do the group exercise, would see some of the peculiarities and things that people often miss when they don't read the essay prompts. Start your applications early. Some people have done applications so many times that they don't need that time. But if you need time to start early so that you can be reviewing it. And maybe when you read something new, you can say, okay, I can reattempt this paragraph and try it again. So start early. For people who are interested in Chevening, the deadline is sometime in November. So you should have at least, started looking at the questions, started thinking about how to respond. I put here too that you can get a scholarship or fellowship regardless of your grade. People have reached out to me to say, oh, I'm not applying because I graduated with a second class lower. I've seen people get, my friend recently got the Irish scholarship or something. She got Chevening. She got the university where she was going to school also offered her. So she got like 3 different scholarships and she graduated with a second class lower, but she's been able to tell her impact story in such a way that you're not even thinking of what she graduated with. This one that probably graduated 4 years ago, how are you using, what they have graduated with as a way to measure, their impact now? So I put here that beyond writing well, you need to know how to communicate. That's very, very important. This year, I sat in some interviews for Chevening. It was my first time, being on the other side. In 2018, I was the one being interviewed, but this time I was on the other side as an interviewer. And, I met with young people who had actually written fantastic essays, and gotten to that interview stage. But I was, we only picked one person that day. Only one person got through because I could immediately see through a lot of people that they just, put different things together and just put out an essay. They had the right language, they were talking about networking, all of this. But when you actually ask them questions, they're not able to respond. They're not even able to articulate themselves. So it's very, very key. Some people like to practice with a friend. So they ask the friend, to ask them questions and see if the friend understands, especially if it's someone who's not in your space or in your field. So you have to be able to convince and portray your message as clearly as possible. Actually, on this point, I just remember that someone, the day I was on that interview panel, he was good. He had very good experience. He was working in the bank, but his issue was that he was bragging a lot. Like, he was saying things like, look at my ID card, you can go and ask them, stuff like that. You can go and verify. It was so off-putting, to everyone on that panel that we obviously just said, no, this person is obviously just looking to leave the country. So you have to also be careful, be very articulate and confident, but, don't overdo that kind of thing. So I also install tools like Grammarly to improve your writing. It's free to an extent, at least when you're working on Google Doc. Once you have Grammarly installed, you can already underline some of the things that are not making sense. It can suggest better ways for you to write. And then finally, research on past applications, samples, blogs, vlogs, go on IG spaces where people are sharing their experience. It's so key. I did that, when I was applying for Chevening, I got it on my second attempt. So I had gotten that love letter, I think maybe 2-3 years before. But when I started building my application, I was just going online, trying to read up how did people apply, what are some of the ways people present their work, and make it really articulate. So it's very key. Don't feel like you know so much, or too much about how to present your work. Do that homework on trying to research and speaking to people and listening to people as well. So something practical that I think we can do after now, and I would give these slides to Sheyi to share with us or everyone who has registered. I think this is really reflective because it's good for you to know these things, like kind of know it in your head, but also have it somewhere, especially when you're in that Zen mood, you're very comfortable, your mind is in the right place, you're not stressed out or worried about something. It'll be good for you to put out some key reasons why you're applying, whether it's a scholarship or fellowship. I'm not talking about answering the questions from the essay. This is just literally for yourself, because it means that when you know these things, someone could throw out any question to you at the interview and you'd be able to respond. I remember my Mandela Washington Fellowship interview. It was very intense in the sense that Donald Trump was the president at the time. So climate change wasn't really a core priority per se. But the way I was able to answer the question, and I sensed it from them, they were just like, okay, climate change, so what, that kind of thing. So I had to, immediately talk about the work that we've done with women, the work that I have done with environmental protection generally. And obviously nobody would say, oh, Donald Trump is not pro climate change or climate action, but they know that environmental protection is important. So You know, it could also be that. So this reflective process. Ajiri, I've seen your question on nerves. I don't think it was nerves for that particular guy. I think he was just really proud. And then he's the one that I think he dug his own grave, because he then said to us that, what did he say? I hope he's not on this call. He said that he has already even gotten a job in the bank branch in the UK, you know, just literally telling us that just sponsor my scholarship, but I'm not coming back, you know, to this country. So there were lots of red flags with him. Yeah, he very overzealous. So questions like, you know, what are some awesome things you've done, you know, so far? And some people think when we say awesome things, it's necessarily work related. So, you know, you could have helped someone do something, you know, you could have done something for your parents, done something for yourself. It's important for you to list all of these things out somewhere, because it gives you a sense of fulfillment, and that's how you remember your value. It's so quick to, you know, remember some of the things you're not doing well at or your flaws, but people were actually very awesome with our day-to-day interactions with people. We try, you know, we try sometimes, but we don't know. You know, if you're a volunteer at Softy Vibes, you know, you've done one thing or the other. So list all of these things out. You know, also put out some of the biggest achievements that you've gotten on your own, where you see yourself in 5-10 years. That often comes out in Chevening in particular, when they ask you for your career plan. Also put out what are some of the things you need to, you know, achieve this vision, whatever you put for 5 to 10 years. What are some of the things you would need? Do you need a master's degree? Do you need skills in, you know, leadership? Do you need skills in business planning and all of that? So put that out, and you know, also try and reflect on how the fellowship will help you, and what in particular about this fellowship or this scholarship, what is it about it that, you know, aligns with your own plan? For some people, you know, it might never be Chevening for them. They need something that you know, would support them further. You know, they need something where it's not necessarily about networking and improving, you know, being part of a community. I had a friend who got into, I think it's called the World Bank Japan Scholarship, and they were more about supporting young people with disability in Africa, and that was more specific to, you know, her needs. So it's important for you to look at that fellowship or that scholarship and say, okay, this is what I really need. You know, I want to, for Mandela Washington, for example, I want to see how NGOs or businesses are run in America and see what I can replicate, you know, in my own country. And then transfer these answers to Google Doc, because it's really important. You can't put everything in your head. It'll be good for you to, you know, go back to them from time to time. I recommend writing, because writing in itself is reflective. So you can cross out, you know, what doesn't make sense. You can just keep writing. It's a very reflective exercise. Okay. Oh, yeah, so some pictures of me in some of my fellowships. If you can see, the very common thing is that I have such a bright smile and I'm always on red hair. But I thought to put some of these pictures, you know, as a way to inspire anyone who's looking, you know, to get into some of these things. Chevening, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Mandela Washington, Concord Fellowship. So all of this, you know, they're just really amazing opportunities. So let's quickly look into the STAR approach for interviews. Let me check your charts. Okay. So the STAR approach is, you know, a way to answer questions during interview that is very important and very, very good to know. Like if you hack how to, you know, walk through this STAR approach, you are literally going to shine like a star, because we on the other side, and I say it with pride now that I've also interviewed, we look out for people who are using this. It's just a very easy way for you to, you know, present yourself. So the STAR approach is literally STAR. And STAR is literally, the first one is situation. Some of you already know about this, and I try to make this a bit easy, so I use both Pidgin and English. So literally, when you're asked about situation, they're asking you, what exactly is the context? What's the situation? What's the task? What's the context? And here you're meant to paint a picture. You're meant to say, stuff like, oh, when I was in 200 level, I realized this problem. For example, I saw that people weren't able to, do particular questions or research topic because of XYZ. So that's a situation. And then for tax, you're literally saying, this is what I was meant to do. This is, the goal. This is what I was trying to do, what you needed to do, in that situation. And then for action, in action, you're literally saying, this is how I did it. These are the things I did. And notice keywords like I, things like I did this, I was able to reach out to. And so let's use that particular example. So the situation is you're in 400 level, and you realize that, students, your peers are not able to do particular project topics because maybe there isn't access, or nobody's able to go to a particular farm or something to get the specimens or species that they need. And then the task was that, you wanted to help increase, support your peers to be able to do those research, to be able to have those particular plant species. The action, you could have reached out to your departmental head and told them that this is a major problem, wrote a letter. You could have also, convened a committee of different people, different young people, students that were going to solve the problem. So if you convened the committee, that's something you did. But if you were part of the committee and someone convened it, don't go and lie and say you convened the committee, because it would start telling, when you're describing the story, it will not be consistent anymore. But if you were part, what was your contribution? So as part of the committee, for example, you were in charge of researching the closest farms, rural farms or local farms within the school. That's something you can say, oh, I was the one that did that. I did that stakeholder engagement. I made a list of the nearest farms and I called them. I told them what we needed and asked them if they can do deliveries of this particular species to us, and we're going to pay for that, stuff like that. So you're being very specific about what you did within that committee, and you're not taking the glory and say, oh, at the end of the day, I helped everybody, graduate with an A or with their thesis. So you have to be very realistic. And then results. Result is very key, because sometimes people, mix action for results. So what then happened in terms, what was the overall outcome? So at the end of the day, we're able to help 50% of, our classmates, for example, be able to get this very rare species that they were always looking for, and even create a biobank, a registry, so that even undergraduate students will not have the same problem, so you're able to share more than one positive result, because when you do something, there's always a ripple effect. I created a template so that more and more people don't encounter this problem. That committee was able to even solve other related projects, issues that young people were getting, and be very, very specific about those accomplishments. Be your own hype person. Some people can be very shy. They won't say what they did. The interview I sat on, the one person who got in, like she just knew herself. I felt like she had done that reflective work, because our minds were still getting busted by what she had just said. She'll now say another one. Like, I've reached out to these people, I've done this. We're just like, wow, who is this person? So it's always very good for you to be your own hype person. Let me look at the charts. Okay, so people asking me to review their essays, except you're a Sosti Viber. I don't know that I have time to review essays. It's always so time consuming. So I probably would not be able to if you're not a Sosti Viber. And that's why I'm doing this session, so that I can, just pour out my heart and explain how these things work, so that it's easy for us. Sorry. So there's a last one that people often mix called reflect. People would always say STAR approach, and they don't always add this second R, but I think it's really important, and it's helped me personally because you could do great work. You could be, now there are several youths, people coming up and doing environmental stuff. If you've noticed, climate change is now like a core development issue. So lots of young people are getting on board. It's important for you to reflect when you're talking about your accomplishments, say, in retrospect, this is what I learned about this. I learned, for example, that I can find a problem and I can actually work with other people, like-minded people, and we can come together, realize our strengths and weaknesses and help people. I realized that there's a sense of fulfillment, when you're able to support people with their own goals, and share how this has shaped you. Maybe, for example, after doing that project or supporting your peers in school, you went on to do a human resource related NGO, to support people with their CVs or stuff like that. So there should be a sense of reflection. That's how we know. Okay, thank you. Please just help me to keep muting people. That's what happens when you make it public. So always important to reflect when you're responding. So how did you see the entire experience? Okay, we're doing good on time. So I wanted us to do like a group work. I'll be glued on the chats trying to respond to some of, trying to look through your responses. But before then, I'm just going to check if people had immediate questions that they want us to answer, or do we want to just answer the questions later? Maybe we should do that. So I can leave like 15 minutes for questions. Let's do that. So how did that red thing come up? Anyway, so this is Chevening application. This is what the questions look like. So the section 1 is asking about leadership and influence. So I want us to look through, particularly, and they put all of this subtext so that they tell you what they are looking for. Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers. Take note of what they've just said. They're looking for people who would be future leaders or influencers in their home countries. Don't, get into the application and start over bragging. They are not saying that you need to have done everything. Like, literally, you can be fresh out of university with a dream, with a purpose, and you put in your application and you get in, because they are not looking for already established people. They are not even looking, you don't need to be like a founder or something. You need to have just have a plan to lead, or have started something one way or the other. So they're looking for people who will be future leaders. It's the expectation that after you've gone through the Chevening process, you've gone to the UK to study, you can now come back to your country and be a leader, in the long run. They're not even expecting you to do it immediately. So some people would come and say, that in the UK, for example, that they want to start an NGO. I heard stuff like that. How can you want to start an NGO in the UK? That's not what we're looking for, like on the Chevening side of things. So now they expect you to explain how you meet this requirement. How are you a candidate for future leadership? And how can you, give clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support your answer? Here you can talk about, stuff you did in school, you were part of. Remember the example we just went through. And you can now talk about, things you've done that show influence, that show leadership. It could even be within your own family. Like, have you been able to influence someone within your church, within your community? That's how you answer this question around leadership and influence. So I wanted us to attempt, what are some of the things you would talk about in your own experience about if you're going to attempt this? What are some of the things you will talk about? Let's think about it and see, it could be one word, it could be a phrase, but I want to see how we're already thinking based on everything I've said. Please mute your mic. Let's use the chat and so that we can just do this as a group work. So someone is asking to repeat the question, basically saying, I want you to attempt this section 1, leadership and influence. If you're going to give clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills, what are some of the examples that you put out? What comes to your mind immediately? Julian, type your answer. Let's see. This is probably the closest I will come to, looking at people's responses. Nobody's putting anything on the chat. Should I assume we don't want to do the group work? Okay. Uchendu says, how I helped my company attract more customers and prevent it from reducing staff. So how you supported staff retention and attracting, customers and clients. So that's really good because it shows stuff about your influence. And when you're writing this, you can already talk about this context where your business or your company was at the time, and then how you came in and did this. Bringing up a new idea in the office that made us have effective turnover, and how I managed and supervised the process. Yes, so this is very key because it shows as an entrepreneur, you're able to actually bring in ideas on your own, like within the organization. So you don't need to be a founder. I had several colleagues who were trainers that did not have their own organization or businesses, but they were able to prove that they were influencers and leaders in their own rights. So this is really, really good. Maybe we can get one more and then we can move to the networking side of things. Someone is asking if being an influencer would count. So it really depends, because would I call it, that's how you can package your role as a content influencer, to say, for example, I'm thinking of, really, really impactful. There was someone who was doing stuff around vlogging during my sets, and I didn't look at her application, but I know she used that as a way to leverage, because she was mostly doing content around CVs, like a HR or social media, like digital stuff like that. And she was able to work with different organizations. So she was an influencer in her own right, but there was an impact side to her story. So definitely you can put that. But if they only just give you things and you just, help people buy and sell, it might be a bit off. I lead SDG community development groups. and we're able to reach out to persons with disabilities and sensitize them on the knowledge. So that's a bit too vague, because you want to tell me the particular SDG community development group, very vague, because you're saying I lead the Sustainable Development Goals Community Development Group. It's a bit rhetoric, like tautology as it were. So you want to be very specific. Are you a team lead within the group? And you said the name of the group. And I do this, on a day-to-day. Persons with disability, I support them on, maybe climate resilience, for example. So you have to be very specific. I organize group reading among my course-mates and help out with their project work. Sounds a bit charitable. So if there's a structure around it, that is replicable, that's how it shows that you're an influence. So it's not just, oh, I'm helping, I'll share my story of how women were drawn to my story when we engage them at our stakeholder workshop. Yes, that's able to show your, influence, your story as an influencer, how I'm able to influence and, support women, make issues, development issues relatable within the community, and help women, grow their own skills on their own. I convened a group of students who spearheaded getting student reduction on hostel fees after the coronavirus break. That is so relatable and so real. So that's a very good one, Sheyi. Once you package it, it shows that I was actually able to see a problem and I influenced it. Yes, so Lekwa, this is much better. It will be good for you to actually put NYSC, the National Youth Service course, so that whoever is reading it to say, okay, this person is even a recent graduate and this is what they did. Okay, very quickly, we can look at networking, but I think I responded, I put out my response for networking, so we don't need to do that together. But networking is asking, Chevening is looking for individuals with strong professional relationship building skills who will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. Now, can you see that they're using things like will? Do you have the potential? Chevening is basically saying, I'm looking for potential. Explain how you build and maintain relationships. So this is already present. How do you do this on your own right now? Using clear examples of how you currently do this, and outline how you hope to use these skills in the future. When they ask you to explain, give details, paint a picture and a scenario. When they ask you to outline, they're literally saying list out, it could be a phrase or a sentence. So the outline bit has to be brief, but the explanation bit has to be, has to tell a story, basically. Okay, so I have put like a bonus point of my actual response in 2018 on how I answered this question. So we could quickly go into that. And I could read out, I don't know what this red thing here is. Anyway, so this is how I responded to the networking question. I realized that very early on in my life, the importance of I realized very early on in my life, the importance of building relationship. I was a 19-year-old graduate who sought mentorship and guidance in navigating the employment world, especially in the sustainability and CSR sectors in Nigeria. Literally, what I've just done is copy and paste exactly how I wrote it in 2018. Reading it, I almost cringe because I'm like, what's this? But it got me in, basically. And it was, sincere, because that was what it was. I probably won't put sustainability and CSR, differently now that I know better. But this was what it was. This was how I wrote. So I want us to read through. I think it's a lot. You can already see me talking about attending events, what I did in terms of networking, because they say, explain how you currently do this. I took, complimentary cards and I followed up with questions about the person or their work, and how this helped. I read several books on likability and networking. I actually did that, so it was not bobo. and figuring out how to be genuinely interested in people. And I talked about the current work I did, with Susty Vibes, working with volunteers and whatnot. Also talking about personal branding, how I'm currently using social media to project myself as someone who is very big on sustainability in Nigeria. How I attend events, how, I talk about those events. And then even talked about Twitter, how I'm able to connect with the UNDSG, just from, networking. So these are examples, you're explaining that and you're showing how your affiliation with whatever you're doing. So even if you're a volunteer, you don't have to be a founder. And then finally, I ended saying that in the future, I hope that my networking skills will advance to a level where I can teach young people how to maximize their network and build real relationships. So hopefully I'm doing that 3-4 years later. And I believe that my skills will enable me learn about other fields and sectors as I strive to be a global citizen. So this was basically what I put out for that part of the question in 2018. Don't write this exactly, because you just completely fail. They have this on their database as a response, but it's to guide you, to see how I responded, some of the examples, I did. Yeah. We're almost out of time, so I'm going to quickly go. Okay, we're literally almost done. So we can attempt career plans. Can we do that? Maybe in the next 5 minutes, maybe attempt career plans. So for section 3, it's pretty easy. Outline why you have selected your chosen 3 university courses and explain how this relates to your previous academic or professional experience and your plans for the future. Please do not duplicate the information you have entered on the work experience or education sector of this form, a section of this form. So basically they're saying when you fill the Shivning form, there's a place that would already ask you for your work experience. So where you worked, basically like to put your CV out and your educational experience. They're saying don't repeat that, but tell us how what you've chosen to study relates to those your academic experience or professional experience. So if you're an accountant and you're trying to get a master's in tax or accounting or something, just explain how this is now what I want to do. I've realized maybe there's a gap here. I'm really passionate about tax. I've seen how countries in the UK are able to, have an efficient process for tax management. And this is what I want to learn. I want to learn how to do it, because you have to be able to explain why that university, why the UK. A really, really good essay and interview that I was part of. She was going to do something related to sports in the UK, and she was already finding lecturers in the university who were drawn to, global South and sports, or sports and development. So that kind of thinking shows nobody will ever take that from her, because she has done the work on why she wants to study in the UK, why that particular school, why that particular course. I remember also doing that same homework of, several schools are doing environmental courses. So why in particular do I want to do development, or do I want to go to IDS? It's number 1 in the world for development. That's a reason. But I also want to be part of the people, the alumni. I want to connect with the network of people who go to this school, because I have plans to work on policy development. So it has to be very clear, and it has to be your story. I can't, tell you what to write there. That's why the research is very important. So let us attempt career plans. Chivnin is looking for individuals who have clear post-study career plans. Please outline your immediate plans upon returning home and your longer-term career goals. You may wish to consider how these relate to what the UK government is doing in your country. Very important. So the first thing you do when you see this question is just go to UK, Nigeria, or UK Gov, the website for the British government in Nigeria, and look at their priority areas. What are the things they are interested in? Women empowerment, domestic violence, stuff like that. And see how does what you want to do, poverty eradication, how does it match one way or the other? It was interesting because the lady who was doing sports was not directly, on a UK priority area, but she was able to match it up to their work on employment, and youth engagement and youth development, because she then, talked about how she was particularly interested in young people who have, dreams to go into football or soccer, but don't end up getting in, so what do they do? What's that, mental and psychological support that they need? And that's very key to the UK government because they're interested in youth development. So she's catering to that population of the society. So I am looking out for the chat. What are some of your career plans that you put out here? And it could be wanting to further on to a PhD, doesn't matter. That's also a plan. It's a post-study career plan. You want to come back. Obviously, that for Shivni, you have to come back home. So your plans need to be, coming back to Nigeria. So think more in Nigeria. Linda, this is really good. I just saw your response. Uche says, I plan to work on the framework of UK's project in Nigeria. That is very vague because UK has several projects. So you want to be very specific about what projects that you're talking to. So if the project has a name, for example, so you put it out there. Sustain, exactly. So you've done that now. Sustainable housing and all of that. Yeah, so you have to be very specific on what UK projects would be and the overall outcome, and try not to focus too much on the projects. Someone needs to mute. I think Victoria. Okay, thank you. So is anyone attempting again? But this is really good. It'll be good for you to actually say what exactly you want to do. So don't put too much, emphasis on the project because they already know the project, but you're just trying to show how it aligns, how this is also, something that will benefit them at the end of the day. So if no one else is attempting, we have come to the end. I put some resources that I wanted us to check out. So Sesho says, I plan to provide legal consultancy on environmental and climate change frameworks in Nigeria. So this is really, really good because it's a big part of the UK government's work in Nigeria in terms of supporting on that. It's called technical assistance or technical knowledge. So this is really good, whether it's environmental law, climate change policy. There are a couple of courses who do work around this. So if you're able to actually put out an application, you're literally on your way in because it's a priority area for the UK government. How can we support, Nigeria with NDCs, energy transition processes, and the net zero carbon pathway? All of that needs, people who understand how these things will work, particularly Nigerians. So the UK is looking to support Nigerians in this area. So other resources we could check, the Scholar's Diary is set up by Chimnas, really helped me. I also wanted to put out that sometimes the university has sponsored scholarships that they do. So you don't have to go through Shivnin or feel limited. I just got into UCL. I'm going to do a course with them. And I got in through their own, they are the ones that will pay for the tuition and they will support it. So it doesn't have to be Shivnin or Commonwealth. I also put that you can cold email and put out application for graduate assistantship. This works in the US, in Canada, North American universities. A lot of people, I think I know about 2 vibers who went in through that area where they're able to work as graduate assistants and have their tuition paid for. Website like Opportunities for Youth. And if you're on Twitter, rather than just following any crazy challenge, you can follow topics like graduate school scholarships. So you see a lot more information on, people posting opportunities and all. And then I saw this really good page, Scholarship Scarf. They put information out. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to answer any questions if there are. Maybe I can do for the next 5 minutes, but if there are none, we can end. But hopefully this was useful and helpful for everyone. Just checking the charts. Okay, so come back to work with women to build climate change resilience by empowering them, especially women in coastal communities. That's really good, Ajiri. If you put that out, you're able to, especially when you're consistent. Remember, I talked about consistency. So you need to, like when you talk about coastal communities, let it not be new information. I need to have seen that you have some background working with coastal communities. Maybe that's where you work or something. Okay, do we have any questions? Yeah, so people are saying it was useful, it was helpful. I am glad, and I'm glad I'm able to help. Someone is asking the number of examples per essay. So I think you can stick to, 2, 3, because you have a word count. So you don't want to go over your word count, but by the time you've been able to structure your story, if you give too many examples, I think that happened to someone I know. She had too many examples that were quite different. So they were very diverse. So by the time she got to the interview stage, I assumed that, she couldn't stick to one story because there were just several examples. Yes, you can use one robust example if it has, multiple positives. Remember when we did the STAR approach, where when you talk about your results, there can be more than one positive. So different layers of that example. And I think I did that when I talked about my leadership. So by founding Susty Vibes, there's been multiple outcomes from that. And I was able to leverage on that. Yes, I'm sure the recordings will be sent and the slides. I would share that with Sheyi after now, and she can share with people who have submitted. So I don't think there are any more questions. Maybe people are shy. I might not be able to, do this for every single person, but yeah, hopefully this has been beneficial. Thank you all so much for listening. Over to you, Uche.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your time. This has been very educative, I know, and very helpful.
I've just seen that Solomon has his hand up, Uche. Maybe he wants to say something.
Okay, Solomon.
All right. Hi, Jennifer. Good evening. Hi, Uche. Thank you. I believe when you called my name, you asked me to unmute myself. That's why I muted myself.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, to Jennifer. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the teaching and the enlightenment. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, here's my question. I noticed that the slides you taught on and the slides you used were specifically to the Chevening Scholarship. My question is this: can I make use of your format in applying for other scholarships outside of Chevening Scholarship?
I would say
I mean the guideline.
Yes, I would say so because So I just did UCL. I guess look through the slides where I talk about the tips, the general tips. So if, for example, you're able to read through an essay prompt. So for example, UCL was saying, talk about how this course you want to study is related to addressing inequality. So obviously, you're not going to talk about leadership or influence there. You're going to talk about inequality. You need to look at the question and find out what exactly are they trying to respond to? What are they trying to support? What kind of people are they looking to help? That's where you will now respond to the question. Oftentimes, people just right and means, they're saying something else, but the question is very specific. The prompt is asking for, particular things. So definitely look at it in that way.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I got that. Thank you. I also have another one, if you don't mind.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Hopefully people are
Yeah,
learning.
thank you. So I'll come in from an angle different from scholarship, but then I'll drive down my question back to Acing scholarship. I was trying to apply for a job some weeks back, and then because of overtime experience, when I want to apply, I just feel like, I should reach out to someone that is better off than me and also experienced than I am in respect to application, so that the person can properly guide me on how to answer the questions on the link provided for the application. And then during the process of the person putting me through, he told me that, I suggest you read these questions yourself, try to understand the questions, and, don't think too deep about the questions. Just answer them more or less. Somebody was trying to tell me to get my hands dirty, and that's kept me it left me two-sided. It left me in a phase that, okay, does that mean that I shouldn't ask for guidelines with respect to applying, or should I just try to absorb this whole application thing before applying or before reaching out for help? Now, I know that there are two different angles with respect to the fact that there's one applying for a job and there's one applying for scholarship, but then just trying to merge the whole thing to ensure that one is doing the right thing and, answering it correctly with respect to the questions they answer. Like, do you answer based off your understanding of the questions, or you answer based off the way they expect you to answer it?
That's an interesting question. I think you answer it in both ways. Yeah. If a question is asking you how or explain, they expect you to explain it, but the content you're going to put in as your answer is how best you understand the question. So when I say look at the question prompt, I actually mean in terms of the expectation of how they want you to present, whatever you're responding to. So if I tell you to briefly describe something for me, I'm not expecting, a story of in 1989, my grandmother, you're supposed to now just give me the context, tell me what you did, and explain like that. And I think the STAR approach is useful for job applications as well, because I've used that. So it works for job applications and, generally for essays. So for me, when I'm looking at the prompt, I'm looking more of my understanding of the question is very key, and also what they expect me in terms of, do they want me to outline? Do they want me to demonstrate? Do they want me to show, things from my own life or my own eligibility or how I fit to what they're looking for? So that's what I mean by looking at the question. So we have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to allow Ayo. Solomon, does that help?
Yes. Thank you. I responded. Thank you so much.
All right, cool. Ayo has his hand up. So if we can just do another 3 minutes so that we can answer the question, then we can end at 7:10 since we started a bit late. Okay, Ayo. Ayo, we're waiting for you.
I think he already typed his question.
Oh, he did?
What way? Yes. In what way can one improve writing and communication skills?
Good question. I think you improve your writing by reading more, because there you build in your vocabulary. You improve your communication by listening, listening to more people talk well, and, learning, like reading more about samples of how people have written. You learn by also attempting yourself. So try and attempt essays, show people, let them look through, see how you've written it, write, rewrite, cancel, try again. So you try by practice, but also by absorbing information on your own. So reading really helps, because by the time you read, you're building your vocabulary, you're seeing things that you knew, but probably you didn't know how to articulate or express best. So that's what I would say in terms of how to do that. And then install Grammarly, really, really useful tool. Okay, Uche, over to you. I see Busayo has his hand up. Busayo, if you can do yours in 1 minute, I really want us to close so that we don't keep people for too long. Okay, Busayo.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. My question is based off the idea of consistency. For someone that maybe has different experiences that are not really connected, what should that person do? Really, I don't know. That's my question actually.
Yeah, so when you do, remember that, the thing where I said you should write down, that reflective tool. If you do that, you're going to probably see commonalities, and that would be your why. Something has to be spurring you to do different things. Yeah. So obviously there are things that you obviously can't just put, maybe it's just completely outside impact, outside what they're looking for. But if you're into different, diverse things, there should be some commonalities. Like, are you just generally someone who likes to bring people together? I know someone who's very big on networking. So she does different things, but in all of those different things, what she's trying to do is bring people together, get people to learn and network with each other, provide opportunities for people. So find that's why you have to do that work of writing down all the different things you do. And I can help you, do that exercise of, trying to put all your different experiences together so that we can see a pathway to say, maybe yours is just storytelling. Maybe yours is, branding and helping things to be better understood, something like that. So hopefully that helps.
All right, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, back to you, Chief.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for your time and for this training. To me, I can speak for myself, it has been very helpful. I've picked up a few things.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to the end of this training. I bid everybody a good evening.